we're talking about whether or not Kyle Shanahan should delegate play calling for the good of the team,
Ooh.
and
You know,
what Jed York should do if he continues to lose. Because
Yeah, sorry.
people are always like, "Hey man, you can't get rid of Kyle because what are you gonna do after that?" Like I think people don't understand that with Trey Lance on this team, a lot of coaches might want in if Kyle Shanahan ain't getting it done. It's not like you have to go back and call up Jim Tom Sula or Chip Kelly. It's not like that.
yeah, it's not
Oh,
that roster anymore. But I heard a podcast yesterday, and it was with Javier Vega,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
he had Mike Person on,
Okay.
and Person got into some detail about Kyle Shanahan and how he is behind the scenes, and he said the thing that people don't understand is we would go in for a 30-minute meeting and it would turn into 2.5 to 3 hours
Wow.
because Kyle wants to teach about every single detail on the
Okay.
offense and the defensive side of the ball. So much to the point to where the players would say, "Damn, Kyle, you should be the defensive coordinator," and they would joke around with him. And what they were getting to is Person said, he is a lot more like Bill Belichick than people realize in terms of how he, I guess, conducts himself around the team, maybe how he treats the players, how he's bluntly honest with them. And he brought up the fact that him and Kyle, Belichick and Kyle, are actually really close friends outside of football.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, like you're saying, it's going to be very hard for Kyle to give up any type of control when you feel like you're in that upper echelon of coaches where you want to control the roster and the coaching side of the ball. I
Let me say
find it
two things about
very,
that real quick. Let me say real two.
yeah,
That's a great point. Two things. One, every coach who's tried to emulate Bill Belichick's style of things has failed. Everyone. You're not Bill Belichick because there's something about his non-personable style that didn't work for Matt Patricia, all those people. Um, and I think also I'm curious to know if Bill Belichick's style would ever have worked if he didn't have Tom Brady. He was never successful without Tom Brady, and Kyle Shanahan's never who. I mean, no one's lucky enough to get Tom Brady. I forgot the other point I wanted to make, but I just feel like trying to be like. Oh, the other thing is Bill Belichick delegated play calling. He hasn't called plays on defense for a long time. Maybe he does every once in a while, but he's had Brian Flores, he's had Matt Patricia, he's had his son. He usually doesn't call plays. He'll game plan, obviously, but he's
think
focused on situational football and what do I have to do in all three phases to win this game. That's how he usually does it. Am I wrong?
I think you're right, and that's the point I'm getting to
Oh,
is
sorry.
if he thinks that he's already at that Bill Belichick type level,
That's the problem.
that's a big problem because dude,
Yeah.
it's like the Andy Reids and the Bill Belichicks went through the fire to get where they are. You know, those guys went through so much ups and downs, so much different learning experiences, all the way till by the
Belichick
time they
has
did,
like 8 rings, man.
like by the
8.
time they did get older in terms of being head coaches, when they did start having success, um, definitely that's the thing is they had to learn to delegate more.
and
So
if you really think about it, like he really did have a chance because I was just thinking about this. Like maybe Kyle doesn't trust anyone enough, but then like you look at a guy like Mike McDaniel who's been with Kyle forever. That's the type of guy who would take over play calling for Kyle. So if he had any opportunity to ever do it, I feel like it might be right now. Like Grant, don't you think someone who's been with him that long, like shouldn't he have earned his trust to that kind of point? Because I mean, if he was an offensive coordinator in Miami, like it was rumored to be, he'd be calling plays for them right now.
That's a good point. I don't see why Mike McDaniel wouldn't be able to do it. He's been around Kyle Shanahan forever. What is he? I mean,
That's what I'm.
he went to Yale. He can't figure it out. I just feel like Kyle's a little scared. He's in his comfort zone and he doesn't want to give it up. Maybe he feels like it would make him irrelevant or whatever. But you were hired to be a head coach, not a play caller. Play calling is extra. If you can do play calling well while being a great head coach, great. But the other thing is primary. It's like me and Sports Illustrated and YouTube. I can't just slack off on Sports Illustrated to have a YouTube channel. Sports Illustrated is my primary employer. They're the ones that give me a press pass. You got it. You can't just, you know what I'm saying? I don't know.
no,
Yeah,
I mean
I don't know.
everything you're saying is fair because
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's like, all right, at some point, Kyle, you're gonna have to trust somebody else to
Thank
call
you.
the plays. Man.
Thank
You're
you.
gonna have
well,
to trust if you've been developing Mike McDaniel,
For like
you
two
gotta give him
decades.
his you
Yeah.
gotta give him his opportunity because
Yeah.
if he fails, then you know to move on. But if
Yeah.
he's somebody who can actually take over the play calling, think about the added benefit of letting you focus on the overall team rather than just the offense.
I think
And
so
the
because
thing
he's so
is,
good on the details. Let him focus on those details. Sorry, Ben, go.
oh, I was just gonna say the thing is Kyle could take over play calling again in 2 years if Mike McDaniel is that good. Like it's not like Kyle has to give it up forever. But I think especially right now with the way this team is, like it'd be one thing if like I feel like a situation could be like if they did make Mike McDaniel the play caller and full offensive coordinator and they won a Super Bowl or got very close and did very well, then yeah, Kyle could take back over play calling in a few years once McDaniel gets hired as a head coach somewhere, because that's probably what would happen, right? But
Mm-hmm.
like right now, he has a guy in front of him right now who's been with him for like literally 17 years, Grant,
Mm-hmm.
right? I don't think I'm wrong with that.
Mm-hmm.
Like he's
Yeah.
been with Kyle everywhere.
Yeah.
So this would be the guy he should trust. And
Yeah.
I mean, like you said, it might just be like an insecurity thing, like yeah, a control thing, like
Or we heard, yesterday, I think, Grant, you made a great point when you were talking about how when John and Kyle were at the State of the Union,
Mm-hmm.
and John was like, "Yeah, this roster is better than 2019," and Kyle's like, "Well,
Yeah, but
it can
yeah.
be better,
Yeah.
but they have to prove it."
Yeah.
So we don't know if behind closed doors, like McDaniel's saying all the right things in his interview,
Mm-hmm.
but we don't know if Kyle's like, "Look, McDaniel, you're going to have an opportunity to showcase what you can do this year. And if you do prove it, maybe you do get the full control, but it's more of a, I can't just hand it directly over to you in year, what is this, year 5?
Yeah.
Where we're supposed to win right now. And if I let you take over play calling right now and tell everybody it's just another excuse if we don't do well, like, well, it was Mike McDaniel's fault.
Well, and with D'Amico Ryans too, that's 2 new play callers. So I mean, that is super fair to point out.
Okay, hold on. Let's shift the conversation, because as much as it's fun to talk about whether Kyle Shanahan should delegate play calling, we know he won't. That's not going to happen this year. I asked Mike McDaniel. He said it ain't going to happen. It's not going to happen. So the other question is, if we all expect the Niners to win this year too. So I'm just trying to say, if they don't, if something happens, things get bad luck again, they have a losing season, and Jed York fires Kyle Shanahan because he's impulsive, which coach would you most like the Niners to look into? I know that's a hard concept to think about, but it's not just
I'd say Brian.
There's also Brian Daboll.
Brian Daboll, I'd say for this reason.
Okay.
Sean McDermott is not an offensive mind. He's a defensive mind. So if you look at who's been developing Josh Allen, you got to give Brian Daboll credit.
Yes.
So if I was going to bring somebody over where I have a young Trey Lance in his year 2, I'm going to go with the guy who already has somewhat of a proven record in helping a guy who has questionable accuracy issues and helping that guy develop the play calling and just building around him. So I think he would be the guy I would go over Bieniemy with.
So I think Daboll would be my second choice, honestly, and I'm going to say it's Bieniemy, specifically because this team is built around the run. And if you fire Kyle Shanahan, you can't just ignore that. And if you look at what Bieniemy has been doing in KC, he was their running back coach. He did a lot of the run game stuff there. So I feel like, Daboll I think would be a great choice too, but I would want to lean more into what this team is really good at. And I think that's kind of Bieniemy's background.
Well, let's just step back real quick and point out the fact that they're both good candidates. I mean, one guy developed Patrick Mahomes, one guy developed Josh Allen. That's exactly what you're looking for if things went weird with Kyle Shanahan. Because if it did go weird, you'd be firing him because he wasn't able to develop Trey Lance, or he wasn't able to win. And it seems like Trey Lance would be a draw. And someone like Brian Daboll, who developed Josh Allen, might want to become a head coach for a team that has a similar type of quarterback. So I think both of those guys would be in play. That's why I feel like Jed York in particular, and Niner fans in general, need to not be so wedded to Kyle. Yeah, he's the coach now, and he could have a big season, and he could have a great career. But if he doesn't, there's any number of things. I mean, coaches aren't that hard to replace. I know Jed York blew it in the past, but with Trey Lance, that should be the draw.
Yeah. I mean, you're right, because when you think about like the past years, there's a big difference why the fans were really upset when he let go of Jim Harbaugh.
Right.
There's a big difference in terms of what Jim Harbaugh had done in his tenure there.
True. He brought credibility back.
Yeah, so it's like they're not in the same level in terms of, oh man, if you lose this guy, you're losing this, because like you said, he's only had one winning season. So this season, there really is no excuse, especially if you keep 2 quarterbacks on the roster.
Seriously. Get to 10 wins. You got to get to 10 wins.